If you were 2-7, you'd be in a bad mood too.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. And he hits the upright again. That's impossible.
Get your mouth shut. Get your mouth shut. Jerk.
The Bears' season's going to end on a double doink.
If Worms had machine guns, then birds wouldn't be scared of them.
Hey, how's everyone doing out there? Welcome to a word-old media presentation of the Limp Ditkus Podcast. I'm Pete.
I'm Ryan. Welcome to the LDP, the Limp Ditkus Podcast. We're just a couple of Chicago pricks united by our hatred for University of Michigan football and the Chicago Bears. We had a Super Bowl that I think we need to talk about this week. We've got a big trade with the Lions. Perhaps the biggest trade in history, as some have called it. I think that's a little bit overstating things when you're talking about the Lions and Matt Stafford. We've got some Bears trade talk. They're in the market for a quarterback. I think we've got a little bit of a little bit of Cowboys talk.
Yes. Some kind of shit you could make up, actually.
Nice. I've got a little bit of Calvin Johnson talk to continue the Lions theme of this show. I'm going to debut a brand new segment at the very end that some may get a kick out of, and mostly it'll annoy people, but it's my fucking podcast, so fuck off. So
looking forward to it.
Let's go ahead and jump into the news. We had a fucking Super Bowl that bored me to tears. I don't know how'd you feel about it?
Yeah, the only exciting thing about that Super Bowl,
I've got two,
was somehow, even though it's not going to show up on the stat sheet, Mahomes continued to make me shake my head and say, how the fuck did you do that again? I think there were two touchdown passes that were not pulled in by his receivers that he threw in both cases under a huge amount of duress. One of them, as he was basically going to his knees and threw a perfect spiral. There was one where he
was like completely horizontal to the ground, like a Bobby Orr, the famous Bobby Orr goal scored. I mean, he looks like a superhero, but unfortunately, most of his performance was running backwards most of the night. It seemed like somebody did the stats, stat tracker. He ran for a total of like 497 yards. That was all backwards or sideways.
Yeah,
they measured it and that was a record, believe it or not. But that was the first thing I noticed, and got so annoying because he would just run straight backwards because he had no choice because of his offensive line, which we'll get into in a bit. But yeah, I mean, we were looking forward to the Super Bowl. You and I both picked the Chiefs to dominate, or I think you had them dominating, not even close. I had them winning in a little bit closer battle, but we were both way off. As Tampa and what do they call Champa Bay now is their nickname, or as opposed to Tampa Bay. Fucking Tom Brady does it again. Honestly, that game was so boring. I have never thought about changing the channel during a Super Bowl. In fact, I was wondering for all I know, every channel in the rest of the world could be blank or have a test pattern during the Super Bowl. I would have no idea if you could even change the channel to something else, but I was considering it. At least by the third quarter, it was just listen to Romo and Jim Nantz fillet Tom Brady on how he's the greatest quarterback of all time, which he is, but I'm just tired of hearing about it. I didn't want to watch the game anymore. It's just brutal. I guess that's my favorite thing. I've got a couple favorite things about the game. That the result of the game, at least, we never have to talk about who's the greatest quarterback in NFL history ever again. I mean, that was kind of cemented before this championship, but Tom Brady's obviously the greatest ever. We can stop that debate. We can also stop the debate. Was it Brady or was it Belichick? That was the key to the New England Patriots domination.
I think
the
we know the answer to that, folks.
I think we know that one. So we could put those two most annoying, the crutches of sports talk radio. We can put those topics to bed forever. So thank God. I think the most exciting play of the night was the fat streaker that got on the field running in like a pink thong, got tackled, ran from the 50, got tackled at the end zone. They didn't show it on TV, but subsequently I've seen more coverage of that than I have of any other part of the game. It feels like that game was so fucking boring that the streaker was more interesting than what we actually saw the play on the field.
Yeah, the radio call was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I forget the guy's name. Of course, he's a
For
famous
the
announcer.
love of God,
Yeah.
put
a
some
bra on!
on, man. Oh, it was great. It was great. That was funny. That was funny stuff. There's funny little stories circulating about that, which are not true because they're different memes attached to different football situations, but the meme all seems to be worded the same. But one little story about the streaker was that because the prop bets for the Super Bowl are insane. Like anything that's ever happened in the Super Bowl, you can bet on pretty much.
I won $10 on the coin toss.
And there's more. There you go. You won.
It was all downhill from there, though.
Yeah, I did not win any money in the squares pool we were in, but
I don't know how we've. Yeah, that's a whole nother subject.
I maybe I could have won money. I can't even.
I think we all won a ton, but Stone had that set up so fucked up. Nobody knows who won anything in that. I didn't understand it at all.
Yes, I think Stone won all quarters.
Imagine that.
Chris Stone, we're calling you out on the podcast. You won all quarters, didn't you?
What was the meme you were talking about for the streaker?
That him and his buddy did the prop bet of plus 750 that there'd be a streaker on the field.
Oh.
And they bet 50K, so they got 375K, and it only cost them $1,000 to get out of jail.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
I don't think that's true.
It had to do with like advertising for a porn site, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not even.
I think that's what it really was.
Yeah.
So they paid him. His jail bill was less than what they paid him to make an ass of himself. So congratulations, you entertained us for 12 seconds.
Yeah, it was the highlight by that point.
I mean,
the one thing that when you look at the stat sheet years from now, someone may wonder if it was the correct year in football, because you'll see in the stat line that Leonard Fournette, Rob Gronkowski, and Antonio Brown were key contributors in the game in 2021 Super Bowl.
Yeah,
which makes no sense.
Yeah, Gronk comes out of retirement to score 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. It's kind of works out well for those guys.
Antonio Brown gets his shit together for like 6 games, scores a touchdown in the Super Bowl, and
Fournette looked dominant too.
Yeah, he's looked dominant. He looked dominant the entire playoffs. So,
well, I think the key, we mentioned that you and I picked Kansas City to pretty much dominate. The key factor that I think you and I both overlooked was the injuries to their offensive line. Number one, to Eric Fisher, the number 1 overall pick back in 2017, maybe. I'm not sure what year that was, but he is a proud Central Michigan Chippewa, as am I. Devastating loss. He blew out his Achilles in the AFC Championship game. They had another tackle or I believe it was the opposite tackle that got hurt. So they basically had to rotate people through. It was like having essentially 3 new linemen because they were all playing out of position. And that's why Patrick Mahomes was running backwards all night, because he had 0 time. He would roll out and there'd be somebody right in his face immediately. So he had to backtrack, and it was a disaster. It was just kind of amazing that there was no way for Andy Reid to figure out a way to counteract it, like if through play calling, whether it's more screen passes or whatever. But they had nothing. They kept running the same play, and it was backwards.
They made, and I was gonna say I blame a huge part of the Super Bowl loss on Andy Reid, and the offensive coordinator, who they made 0 adjustments. They're like, we're the Chiefs. We're gonna do our playbook no matter what's happening in the game. And rarely did you see the running back staying in for protection. Like you said, there were never enough screens called for a counter. And worst of all, knowing that they played a cover 2 deep double on Tyreek Hill to completely take him out of the game after he racked up 238 receiving yards in the first game against them, you never even fucking attempted to establish a running game. Because then that would have opened that up.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's simple.
Yeah, it was backwards.
That's what made the Tampa Bay game successful. Like Brady had a fine game, but when you look at his, did he had maybe over 200 yards passing, or did he even get to 200 yards passing? But that didn't matter because they mixed in. They had a successful running game that kept the Chiefs defense off balance. So like it's simple football. And the Chiefs did not even make an attempt to establish a running game.
Well, that might explain why Eric Bieniemy didn't get a job offer as a head coach in this offseason so far. There's a lot of consternation before that. But
yeah, because you know what? I think it's going to be tough, because no one else has Patrick Mahomes, right?
Right.
So like you have to have, if there's another quarterback back there, that game's even worse.
Yeah.
Somehow it's even worse than what it was. So,
well, I think the only other interesting thing to talk about that game would be the commercials. I don't know what you thought about that. I had a couple favorites. Did you have any that sparked your interest?
I'm trying to remember the.
Honestly,
I thought the Springsteen commercial was awesome, but
yeah, for Jeep.
Jeep.
There's a big controversy in Michigan today or yesterday. There's a U.S. map was prominent in that commercial, and that same map never showed the Upper Peninsula of Michigan as part of the United States. It literally like crossed it off the map almost. So Yoopers are up in arms in Michigan these days because they keep getting left out of the country, even though they are part of this country. My favorite commercial, well, I had a couple, but my favorite was actually before the Super Bowl even started. It was a Pizza Hut commercial with Daryl from The Office, where he was just down in his man cave in the basement, which was fucking awesome. Basically looked like an old Pizza Hut restaurant, and he had a Miss Pac-Man games playing. He was dominating everything, just talking about how awesome Pizza Hut was. And he's like, I think I just out-pizzaed the Hut. Never mind. No. No one out-pizzas the Hut. It was good, but I love Daryl.
Yeah, I liked his like Pizza Hut pattern tablecloth tracksuit he was in too.
Yeah,
that was
awesome.
pretty good. Yeah.
M&M's had a good one, just apologizing to everybody and offering M&M's as their apology, token of apology. Like, oh, I'm sorry I called you Karen. My name's Karen. I'm sorry your name is Karen.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Jason Alexander hoodie for Tide. That was fantastic. I think I need a Jason Alexander hoodie now.
I think you can win one or something. There's some
you
way
can
to
buy
get
them.
one. Oh, you can buy them.
Oh, they'll sell them to you.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
No,
I'd rather win one.
That's how interesting that game was. I'm more interested in the shaky commercials. Well, what'd you think of The Weeknd? The Weeknd. You're a fan, aren't you?
I am a fan. I loved it. I thought it was really good. It was nice that he sang.
I thought you could tell he was really singing, but I thought the sound was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and then I didn't even realize till someone said it that he was actually performing in the stands and not on the field. I never even caught that until
the way they had the stage set up.
Yeah, I never realized it until after it was actually said, like the next day on a newscast. I was like, oh, I guess he was in the stands. But I thought it was enjoyable. It was theatrical.
I knew like one of the songs because it's probably in commercials or something. I don't know, but I didn't recognize most of it, so I thought it was kind of mediocre. But
I mean, to me, that was the highlight of the game.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that says a lot about the game. I think. I mean, it just is kind of fitting. It was a shitty game for a shitty year. Boring for a boring year. Yeah, I mean, if the main things were the halftime entertainment, the commercials, and the streaker, that's not what you're looking for out of a Super Bowl. But
nope.
Whatever. More exciting news if we want to transition away from the big game. At least exciting news for this Detroit Lions fan here. We haven't had a podcast in a couple weeks, so this is a little bit old news, but it is very happy news for me that Matthew Stafford has indeed been traded from the Detroit Lions to the Los Angeles Rams for a insane haul in my estimation. Number one, I've talked probably the entire history of this podcast, now that we're on episode 14, that I was ready for Matt Stafford to be gone. You know, it's not that he's a bad guy. I think he's a really good guy. It's not that he's a bad quarterback. I think he's a really good quarterback. It's just obvious it's not going to get done in Detroit. Whether you blame the Lions or blame Matt Stafford, it's just a marriage that does not work. And the other part of that is the Lions have had many regime changes throughout his tenure, and those never work with him. So whatever it is, it wasn't going to work. So I was happy about the new regime change because it had to happen to have fat Patricia and Bob Quinn out the fuck out of Detroit. There's not a whole lot to go on with a new general manager that's never generally managed before, or new head coach, but I really wanted them to wipe the slate clean and not start a half-ass regime. New coach, new GM, but you're still saddled with Matt Stafford. So it'd be just more of the same shit. So I was really happy to hear they were going to trade him and that they indeed traded him. And now I'm over the fucking moon, as the saying goes, for the return they got for him. I was hoping for maybe a first round pick. I actually thought that was a little bit overstated. I mean, maybe I downplay the value of Matt Stafford because I've seen him play here for 12 years and know what he's worth to the Lions, which is nothing now. But to get the haul they got back is insane, and I did not anticipate it at all. And I think all Lions fans should be ecstatic about it because it does a lot of things. They got, number one, they got Jared Goff back in the deal, which you could say positive and negative things about Jared Goff, which we will shortly. But they got an experienced quarterback who has actually played in a Super Bowl, which is more than Matt Stafford can say. He's actually won 3 playoff games, which is 3 more than Matt Stafford can say. So the biggest part of the Jared Goff thing, and he's the least exciting part of this, is they can get rid of him if this doesn't work in 2 years. So they are not saddled with Jared Goff in any way. If they want to move on, if they want to part ways, they can. His cap hit is similar to what it would have been under Matt Stafford. It's a push, basically. You got a 26-year-old versus a 32-year-old. You've got a quarterback who has success in the playoffs versus one that doesn't. I mean, that's a win in my book. But even if Goff is terrible, I don't care. I am ecstatic about the draft picks. The third rounder, great, whatever, but not 1 but 2 first round picks in the next 2 years. A lot of detractors would say, well, those are almost borderline second round picks. Fine, whatever. Technically, no matter what, they're going to be first round picks. If the Rams are really good, yes, they'll be at the end of the first round. Somehow, I don't think they're going to be all that good. I've seen Matt Stafford for a long time, and I think things aren't going to quite work out the way the LA people think it might. But so, yeah, I will be rooting against the LA Rams for the next 2 years for sure to boost up those draft picks. But it's just a perfect scenario for a team that needs a complete overhaul to do a complete overhaul. They've got the number 7 overall pick in this year's draft. They can choose, now that they have Jared Goff, they do not have to necessarily draft a quarterback unless they have the perfect one dropping in their lap, a guy who they really want. They can really look over the next 3 years, maybe even 4 years, take their time and wait for the right quarterback to drop in their laps in the first round. They'll be drafting early in the first round one way or the other, and they'll have that second pick, even if it is later in the first round. They have a lot of flexibility there, and that's the key to this whole trade, is how much flexibility it gives a terrible franchise that needs a complete restart. And this is the exact way to do it. So I love it. I'm sure you don't give a fuck about any of this. Not many people do, because I can't believe there's that many Lions fans out there. But the few that are out there, you should be all very ecstatic as I am. I don't know if you had thoughts about what the Rams gave up or thoughts in general on it.
I mean, when you actually go and look at Stafford's numbers and his lifetime QB rating, the Lions got what they should have gotten for him.
Yeah.
I mean, has an 82.79 lifetime QB rating.
That's worse than Goff's.
But Golf's not even allowed on this list because he hasn't played enough games.
Correct, but I just wanted to point out that's less than Goff's. So I just want to make sure that's out there.
Stafford is rated 29th overall of all QBs historically. He's a few percentage points behind Roger Staubach, and he's higher than Steve McNair, Eli Manning, Sonny Jurgensen, considered a classic. Troy Aikman, Boomer Esiason, Warren Moon. He's ranked much higher than all these quarterbacks. So I think the Lions got exactly based on that what they should have gotten. The question for everyone is are the Rams offensively more talented than any Detroit team he's played for? That's a very good possibility.
Absolutely.
So we're probably going to see a different result from him now. And even
I wouldn't say probably. It's possible, but I wouldn't put it in
well, because the numbers here, because I was talking, the numbers here are saying that he probably should be have a better result than his record shows. So I'm thinking and it doesn't matter because Detroit's not going to be very good. So they're still going to have 2 first-round draft picks. So someone can moan and bitch about that whole scenario and where the pick is in the first round. But then they'll have another pick not too long after that. So for these first couple of years, I mean, you're definitely in a rebuild mode. And I think everything you said was correct, Smitty, on like they can draft a quarterback. They can wait till maybe the next year, maybe there's a better quarterback class. But the Lions, as far as I'm concerned, like they did super freaking well in this thing. And I'm happy for you because I think things are pointing in the right direction.
It's finally turned, and I think they're finally pointed in the right direction, but I think it's going to be years down the road before we're going to see anything that's competitive. Like for anyone to think that the Lions are going to be decent next year is laughable. It's just not paying attention. They need to rebuild the defense, the worst in the league in many respects. They have no wide receivers at this point. So, I mean, comparing Goff and Stafford going forward is apples and oranges 100%. Like you said, the surrounding company around Stafford is going to be greatly improved compared to what he's seen. I think what I believe, and just by watching it for 12 years, it's eliminating all excuses for Stafford because he's got the team around him now. The problem is he crumbles under pressure, and he has put himself in the highest pressure situation as you possibly can, because the only way to consider this trade a success for the Rams is if they win the Super Bowl. They can't just get to a Super Bowl because they got to a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. So the only way to make it better is to win it. And literally Matt Stafford has never won a big game like that or any remotely close big game. He can't win a wild card game. So that's the beauty. You're right. He is surrounded by a better cast around him, but he has never produced on the big stage, any mediocre big stage. So maybe that's my angst over 12 years, listening to people talk about how great Matt Stafford is when I just never see it when it matters. So I don't know. It's going to be fun to see, because this is like we were talking about with the Super Bowl. We can put that debate to rest with who's the greatest quarterback of all time, or the Belichick Brady debate. But now we can put to rest, was it Stafford or was it the Lions all along? I think, hopefully we can put that to rest. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit of both. But literally, though, the Rams are making a bold ass move, because if this doesn't work, I mean, doesn't the GM have to get fired? Doesn't the Sean McVay have to get fired, because they were both in on this?
I mean, football history would show back here in Chicago. So
Wow, Chicago's a whole different thing, but I mean, yeah, they, yeah, it's a risky move for sure because, like I said, success is only defined by a Super Bowl victory for the Rams. So, I mean, they've traded away now 7 years in a row, 7 first-round draft picks. They haven't had a first-round draft. They will, by the end of this, they will not have had a first-round draft pick in 8 years, which is they talk about zigging while the rest of the league is zagging, or vice versa. They're definitely doing that because the way the NFL has progressed is there's nothing more valuable than draft picks, and they're saying the complete opposite. They've given away their draft picks for years now, so they're going to be hamstrung if this doesn't work. That's part of the reason I'm saying their jobs are on the line, because if they don't win the Super Bowl, they are SOL, so to speak. But I had a couple more things. Oh, one interesting thing about it, obviously the Lions' new GM, Brad Holmes, was the college scouting director for the Rams all these years. So, literally 2 weeks after he took a new job, he was making the biggest trade ever, almost, with his old boss from 2 weeks prior. So that's an interesting dynamic. Like, they know each other extremely well. They know what each values. Obviously, Brad Holmes knows the philosophies and strategies of the Rams inside and out. So I thought that was an interesting dynamic. What do you think about the comment that this is the biggest trade in NFL history? The only way I could see that is because they're talking about 2 number 1 overall picks were traded for each other. They're 2 quarterbacks.
I mean, was it bigger than the Cowboys doing that trade and then going to the Super Bowl?
The Herschel Walker trade is number 1 in my mind by far. That's the most famous trade. I mean, I guess, how do you define the biggest trade of all time? But I just thought that was funny. I'm like, I never considered that. And then I heard that from multiple sources that,
I mean, the only reason I would define, and again, this is again, just going back to what you said, I guess if the Rams go to the Super Bowl and win with Stafford, then maybe it does turn into the biggest trade. And then the Detroit turns into a winning football team. Right?
Wow, you're more optimistic than most. But yeah, I like your thinking.
Like I said, I'm with you. I mean, it's not gonna happen. It's good years down the road, but they turn into a winning football team. Then you might go back and say it is the biggest trade. But like, that trade turned out to be the biggest trade in a way that the Vikings were complete shit after that trade.
Yeah,
and the Cowboys won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, so like, I don't know, maybe it's just like the fact that 2 highly ranked, like high QB rated quarterbacks went back and forth, and then all those draft picks went back too. Maybe that's why.
I think it comes back to the number 1. They're both number 1 picks overall. So
yeah,
even though they're 6 years apart or whatever. So
yeah.
Well, that's about all I've got for that. I'm going to have some more Lions talk in a bit, but we got to take a break from that at least. I don't know if you wanted to get into some more quarterback rumors and trade talk.
I do want to get into quarterback rumors because Carson Wentz is on the block, and Philly's trying to get him moved. I believe it's in the next couple days, right? Isn't there like a big cutoff coming up or something?
See, I don't know for him. I know for Matt Stafford, they needed to trade him before March, because before the league year started, because he was due like a $10 million bonus.
Yeah,
so
I think
they had to move him. I don't know what it is for Wentz though.
Yeah, Wentz is due something, so they're trying to get rid of him. And
okay,
there's a buzz in Chicago that the Bears. I mean, it's been noted the Bears and I believe the Colts have been the 2 teams who have talked to them the most, but Philly says they're looking for a Matthew Stafford type of haul for the trade. And I got to be honest with you, I don't see why they should expect that. And I'm going to break it down for you right now.
All right.
They should not expect it. One, you've got a quarterback who's coming over who has only completed 2 full seasons out of 5, twice because of injury, and then this past season because he was so shitty.
Yeah.
So right there, you've got damaged goods coming over, and he's really never been quite the same after the second injury. I mean, he did throw for, I shouldn't say that because he did throw for 4,000 yards last year, but his QB rating's comparable, but he's only played 5 seasons and only 2 complete seasons. That's a huge difference with Stafford. Stafford's barely been hurt. I mean, he's been pretty healthy his entire career.
He got hurt the last 2 years. He broke his back actually. 2 years in a row. This year he was okay, but he's just always kind of banged up, but never a catastrophe. Well, he didn't finish the previous 2 seasons, but nothing like a knee injury like Carson Wentz had. That he missed. Did he miss a whole year, or what did he miss with that knee injury, or was it just the end of the season?
Two partial It's like 2 partial seasons.
Okay,
he was out. So
well, he was on pace for an MVP. That when he did get hurt, that's what's a little bit confusing about his career, because he started out so great and is just like you said, turned to shit. So I don't know if that's the injury or it seemed like he had a confidence issue this past year, and that's what got him benched.
You're talking about a guy who's like the worst in the league with holding on to the ball and not making like quick decisions. He was just, and when he was more mobile, it was easier, right? It's a lot easier if you can hold on to the ball a lot longer if you can roll out of the pocket and buy some extra time and wait for someone to get open. This season, his biggest problem was he was sitting in the pocket holding on to the ball and then just getting killed. I mean, he's the winner this year. He was sacked 50 times in 12 starts. That's like an average of a little over 4 sacks a game. I mean, like that's not all on. And Philly's offensive line wasn't in terrible shape or anything. So. Like the guy just held on to the ball too long. And it was talked about on one of the games that he's this year, he's just holding on to the ball too long and he's not as mobile as he used to be. So like the Bears obviously need a quarterback. The funny thing about the trade is they're talking that Foles is going to go over. This is the best part. Foles and draft picks are going to go over for Carson Wentz.
Okay, why?
So Philly.
That's funny. That made me laugh out loud.
Philly, from a PR move, gets the Super Bowl winning quarterback back, right?
Okay.
And then Jalen Hurts gets to play in that shadow of this guy who, again, Big Dick Nick went elsewhere and shit the bed again.
Yeah, he's like awful.
Yeah, he's awful away from Philly, or he's awful.
He's so bad that Mitch Trubisky got his job back. I mean, that should tell you everything.
Right, exactly. So
wow.
Yeah, so that's the.
Where is this? See, I heard that rumor earlier today. Actually, I got a phone call from our friend Vit who informed me about that. So I was wondering where he heard that. Do you know where that came from? Is that just coming from?
It's sports radio, Chicago sports radio.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is it coming from Chicago more than anywhere else?
I confirmed it on was it ESPN or whatever about they didn't talk about. No one has like real details on the trade. Other than alleged insiders here in Chicago, but
yeah, I think that's bullshit.
But
or if it is, it's just trying to put things out there like, oh, we're trying to put out a great deal and they didn't want to take it. So the other funny part about that is that the Bears would be going after Wentz, but they can't go after Deshaun Watson, just like they went after Mitch Trubisky instead of Deshaun Watson. So is this another chance they're not going after him?
Well, we haven't been on, and since we're talking, we'll talk about this before we head into the break. But I read in 2 extensive articles that say everyone that calls Houston on Deshaun Watson, Houston says we're not interested in trading Deshaun Watson. Just because Deshaun Watson wants to be traded doesn't mean he's getting traded.
That's not going to end well for anybody. Well, if that's going to be their attitude.
But they have a point. He has a signed contract. He's supposed to play for them. So
he doesn't have to do anything. He can just sit out and then they're all fucked. So
he can sit out and not get paid. So, I mean, whatever. But
he can have a fake injury or lots of things can happen where he still has to get paid. But that's a bad position for Houston to take. First of all, they lied to him and it's pretty obvious what happened. And for them to be reticent like that and try and fuck him over, it's like, why not maximize what you can get for him? You could get a shit ton considering what the Lions just got from Matt Stafford, what should they be able to get from Deshaun Watson? Like, why not capitalize on that? They were a terrible team this year. They had to fire their coach and GM. Like, why hold on to it if he doesn't want to be there? Maximize the value he has right now and turn your franchise around instead of just trying to be a hard ass. I don't get why they would do that. Prove a point. Maybe they're worried about other people doing that, taking his lead, or.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Is it to prove a point, or just like maybe they're just trying to milk it to try to get more for him? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could be. They're playing a game of chicken at that point.
I mean, in his short career, his freaking QB rating is 104.5. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even been talks because of the trouble with coming to an agreement with Prescott that you could see another blockbuster type of trade where Prescott gets sent over to Houston and Watson comes into Dallas. So I don't know. There's so many different things circulating around there, but
wow. Well, I think we should take a quick break here, but I think we'll come back with some talk of, you mentioned Dallas. We might as well talk about your Cowboys when we're back on the Word Hole Media Network.
Word Hole Media.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Limp Ditka's podcast. In almost like it's pretty much a shit you couldn't make up story about the Cowboys this week. I don't think I have anything to talk about until the Cowboys put out their 2021 hype video. And you know how I did mention before the break that you know there were even talks about maybe Dak goes to Houston and Watson comes here and who knows what else gets traded in that. Well, maybe there is some truth to that because they did the 2021 hype video and there is no Dak Prescott in the 2021 hype video.
Oh.
And when they were asked about it, the folks who put it together said it was, you know, guys, it was just an oversight on our part. It was like a huge mistake. You know, I don't think anyone should think that the Cowboys brass is making their commentary via hype videos that get put on social media. And my thought was, so much is done over social media these days. Like, why wouldn't it be subliminal that was on social media? Now, again, this is the Cowboys social media department, so for some reason I can totally believe that it was accidental. The one
I don't know about that.
One of the glaring things that was brought up is the video. Well, it opens up with like Cowboy legends, and then like it's Zeke running in for a touchdown and then throwing the ball against the wall, coming off his most horrible freaking season ever. And if you put that in perspective with Dak Prescott was setting NFL records at the beginning of the season. So yeah, it's funny and mildly disturbing if you're a Cowboys fan, because now you're really starting to question what the fuck's going on over there. Like I don't think anyone in their right mind watches that video and doesn't say, where the fuck is Dak Prescott?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a problem. If that was the case and the social media department just failed to remember him, they should probably be fired.
Yeah, I agree. Someone should be fired for that.
Social media is not that difficult. You should be able to figure that part out at least. Put in your fucking quarterback.
But to say that people don't do their bidding through social media is ridiculous statement. So
it's a powerful medium.
It is.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to jump back into a little bit more Lions talk here. There's a little more news that's noteworthy, at least. Calvin Johnson, Megatron, the greatest receiver in Lions history, was elected to the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. He's an incredible receiver, bigger. He's called Megatron because he's probably bigger than almost any receiver that's ever lived. I was a little bit surprised that he got in the first ballot just because his career was pretty short due to injuries and mainly due to the fact he didn't want to play football because the Lions took the will to play football from him.
Kind of like I did to Barry Sanders too. They
Very
seem to have
similar,
they seem to have an
eerily,
effect on people.
eerily similar to Barry Sanders, who
Go Lions.
actually faxed in his retirement after 9 years to the Lions. Didn't even tell them in person, just sent a fax saying he was retiring in 1999, I believe it was. But yeah, it's eerily similar, and that career, that's part of why I thought he might be a second ballot Hall of Famer. But congratulations to him. But along those lines, part of the acrimony that was involved with him and the Lions included the Lions demanding part of his signing bonus back when he did in fact retire, because he signed like a 5-year extension the year before that, and got a $16 million signing bonus, of which the Lions demanded $1 million back. $1 million.
$1 million.
And you could say that I think both sides are kind of being dicks to each other at that point. Of course, the Lions have zero credibility to stand on, but just on the surface, you could say, well, dude, we gave you $16 million as a signing bonus last year, and then you retire all of a sudden. Like, you got to give us some of that back. But at the same time, it's like Calvin Johnson gave up his body for the organization that just let him down repeatedly. So I think both sides are wrong. But the problem is Calvin Johnson has routinely, since 2017, gone on social media, gone on podcasts, gone in different places, and just he keeps bashing the Lions, trying to get his $1 million back, when the dude has made over $100 million in his career. So he doesn't need the money. I think it's the point that is sticking in his craw. And I get that. It's not like you can just let $1 million go if you think it was wrongfully taken from you. But there's some news on that front that he believes the new ownership, being Sheila Ford Hamp, daughter of Martha Ford and William Clay Ford, is showing some signs that she would be willing to give that money back to Calvin Johnson just to bring him back into the fold. It's the only team he's ever played for. He is a Hall of Famer now. It would be great PR for them to both sides to kind of grow up a little bit and just bury the hatchet somehow. And apparently $1 million could get that done. So I'd like to see it. It sucks because I love Calvin Johnson, but I've really kind of lost some respect from him over the last couple of years, just because the pettiness. But I get his point. I get the Lions' point. I think they're both being childish. So if they can bury that, we'd be all better for it. And maybe we'll see the Lions around Detroit more often and in a positive light. So, other than that, I did want to bring up a couple things that have nothing to do with the NFL. I think we should start with pointing out that today is, in fact, National Pizza Day. I don't know if you realize that, but
I did.
I thought that would give you an opportunity to plug your food blog, since you just reviewed a fancy pizza that looked absolutely delicious.
Yeah, I just did a review. It's YouTube channels. Pete's Food Frenzy also has a Facebook page. I just did a review of Millie's Pizza in the Pan. It's modeled after Pequod's, the creator of Pequod's. The chef is like friends with the family, so he modeled it after that. And Bert's Place in Morton Grove.
Don't give the whole review, but
no, but
go to Pete's Food Frenzy to find on the Word Hole Media Network.
That's right, Word Hole Media Network coming alive. I also have a couple other pizza reviews on there, including my most viewed. I just realized this the other day. My almost 400 views on my Aurelio's pizza review. So
I think I viewed that.
So yeah, there's a couple pizza reviews on there, and coming soon, it is kind of the year of the chicken sandwich. So there will be a chicken sandwich, an incredible new joint in the city where I had a chicken sandwich from. That's coming in the next week or so. So more food reviews. And as things lighten up here in the pandemic-stricken area of Chicago, more food reviews will be coming your way.
We need it. Food is one of the most exciting things during a pandemic that you can think of. So Had to give you time for your plug there for Pete's Food Frenzy. I like it. I'm going to end the show tonight and maybe future shows. We'll see how this goes over. I'm sure you're not going to be too interested in it, but I am. And again, this is half my podcast, so we get to do what we want. But
It's half Smitty's podcast, but he covers 3/4 of it.
I want to talk about the greatest professional football team in Michigan sports history, and that would be the Michigan Panthers. They were my favorite team in the 80s, even though they only existed for 2 full years. Half of their existence was as champions of the USFL, in fact.
Oh, okay. I thought this was a sitcom or something, so I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
They are the inaugural champions of the United States Football League in 1983, with such notable players as quarterback Bobby Hebert and wide receiver Anthony Carter and lineman Ray Bentley. They dominated the USFL in 83, won the championship. Their incredible uniforms and logo, the royal plum, the champagne silver, and light blue, probably the best uniform in football history in my mind. So I think they deserve a weekly, we'll see, maybe bi-weekly special where we'll recap this week in Michigan Panthers history. So I want to bring up in February 11th in 1984, this week in Michigan Panthers history, the Michigan Panthers defeated the LA Express 10-0 in a preseason game in February, because, mind you, the USFL did not want to go up against the NFL, and it was a spring and summer football league, which was a smart idea. Until a former president of the United States got involved in the USFL and demanded that the USFL go up directly against the NFL in the fall, which did not work out so well for one Mr. Trump or the USFL. So the Michigan Panthers on February 11th beat the LA Express 10-0 in Tempe, Arizona. That is this week's moment in Michigan Panthers history. So, do you have anything else you wanted to talk about this week?
Sorry, I dozed off. No,
Thank you.
I'm good.
Well, thanks for
Really good.
indulging me. I don't know when we're going to do another podcast, since we are now done with the NFL season. We are long from any spring practices for college football, but we'll figure out something. We'll definitely have a NFL draft preview coming up at some point, as the Lions draft number 7, and I believe the Cowboys draft number 10 overall.
That's right.
That'll be interesting, because we'll be vying for similar players, I think, in that. So we'll get into that in a couple weeks. Other than that, be on the lookout again for Pete's Food Frenzy, and of course our baseball podcast, Major League A-Holes. That is ramping up as the season.
We got stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about when we're doing our next show. That should be coming up soon. So be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, be on the lookout for Limp Ditkas on social media. You can find us at Limp Ditkas. You can find us at limpditkas.com. And you can find the podcast anywhere you'd like to find a podcast. So do it. Rate, subscribe, review. And with that, I'm going to call this Dagger Time. We out. Peace.
Word Hole Media.